the search stressful going?
Oh, 5:30.
Pushing them through.
Tomorrow we make a decision.
Wait. Is that?
No decisions yet.
No. Did the Albany piece already happen?
No.
Oh.
Make a decision about that tomorrow night.
Well, you're not one that's easy to disagree with.
But I know your paper, but I didn't know, I can't find your paper for the other person. You were right on my top. I could tell, just what you said.
I wasn't wrong.
We'll see what happens. A lot more going on. So, Mark, girls are gone? No, one's at home. I forget you have a younger one. And is she on the swim team? No, she's on something else, though. No?
What are we doing with
She's given it up for, well, at the time, for musicals and stuff like that, because it's...
The next,
That's why you were involved in musicals and stuff you knew of.
like marching
Well, no,
band.
actually, I've been doing the musical pictures for at least
Really?
10 years.
Co-curricular will be the
I
next
didn't know
thing.
that.
There shouldn't be anything yet.
Reese was my
To a
first.
point.
Oh, my God.
But clubs
And do you remember
like
a
that,
student named
they
Mackenzie
want to
Gildemeyer?
know, can they do things, and so I think with
As
my
someone who I
conversation
knew who
with
pulled
Tim
me into doing pictures at the
is
musicals.
maybe we put something.
I just did her engagement
And to
photos
tell
There you
this
go.
weekend.
There you
Can they do it in
go.
this?
Now you're going to be
in,
old.
Like remote learning environment. Can they do their club? Will it work? Because I don't.
Strange world. Yeah.
Always gets hooked on my earring.
I was having the same problem the other day.
I'm hanging in there. You must be really hanging in there.
You know what, we just looks like I've never had any
Give me
time
some
like
time for
that.
yourself to year, so I can make
Pretty neat.
out too.
That would be
I take it,
nice.
because I'm lucky, I can take a day off.
These are comfortable, but they're hot.
They're hot. So we think we're going to let the new administrators leave,
Awesome stuff.
not acknowledge them because we don't want to show a big audience.
Okay, we just had that conversation in the hall.
Okay.
Somebody better follow up.
How often do you get over there?
Yeah, that's
Oh.
cute.
Not to Rick, over to Bosse's.
A black one.
Hey, Bob.
It's white on the other side.
So the administrators,
Yeah, they see.
yeah,
So everything
There's
else.
another
Hello,
one,
how are you? Thank you.
but the elastic is
he's
too
telling
tight.
them now.
Oh, boy! Here we
Personnel.
Hey.
Yeah.
But I,
They're comfy,
Awesome.
Mary.
That's awesome. Love it.
Jason
Nope,
is...
we had
Paper
Max
went away.
Irwin bring him
Gift
by.
of public funds.
what am I doing? Just gonna grab them all,
like
touch them all, and then they
the
all
paper
be sanitized?
Nope.
Have
I already
you
have
heard
one.
any more from Aaron?
Mary,
They work hard.
it's an insert. Keeps the mask off of your nose and mouth.
The kids did it, or who?
No, you order Amazon. They come in a package of 5, and it's a plastic mask insert.
Oh, do your glasses fog up?
When I first...
Usually no, but
Awesome.
it keeps the mask off of you, so I can actually talk.
Yes.
Yeah, or Bane from Batman.
But I didn't realize it was result, it needs to be done after the meeting.
Probably.
Okay. Jerry, now-
Probably, you know,
We used to have something...
One of your college speedos.
And I would go...
It's the 70s, George, sometimes. But is that light on?
It is not.
It is not the light.
Connie, did you start that yet?
I looked.
how
It's
disposable
You did?
that you don't.
See, you gotta remember, it is, you remember the,
Grandpa, how you doing?
I didn't do, yeah.
Probably one of many coming up.
I better see if I could.
I had that done.
I wasn't here one time. It was like a whole. Now I'll go home and try some of these activities. What's the bill for? It was on the kindergarten. Do.
Yeah.
Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Thank you. Let's take a... I'd like to observe a moment of silence for the following. Judith Forte, a graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District. Eloise Kimplin, a retiree of the North Syracuse Central School District. Louis Albert Ferguson, a former member of the North Syracuse Central School District Board of Education. And Margaret Bachman, a graduate and former employee of the North Syracuse Central School District. Thank you. We're going to begin today. We have a series of presentations. Today, the first one is going to be me reading a proclamation for a special week we have, Maintenance and Operations Appreciation Week. Bear with me, so make sure my glasses are not fogged up. The appearance of our buildings and grounds has a significant impact on the environment for suitable learning for our students, working conditions for our district employees, and is a sense of pride for our community. The Maintenance and Operations Department employees contribute to the school family and community by upholding professional work standards, receiving timely training, and approaching all tasks in a strong collective spirit of teamwork, which contributes to their overall work effectiveness. They exhibit diligence, patience, and professionalism in adjusting to new challenges and situations that occur in the school buildings and grounds. To honor the Maintenance and Operations Department employees of the North Syracuse Central School District and their accomplishments, I, Paul Farfalia, President of the Board of Education of the North Syracuse Central School District, on behalf of the Board, express our deepest gratitude, hereby declare the week of September 14th, 2020, through September 18th, 2020, as Maintenance and Operations Appreciation Week to be celebrated with appropriate educational activities. The recommended board action is declare this week, the 14th through 20th, Maintenance and Operations Appreciation. Motion by Mr. Crabtree, seconded by Mr. Maurizio. Any discussion on that? I'll just add one piece, and it's alluded to in here. It's just that a special thanks this year to what you had to step up and accomplish, and what you're still accomplishing and going to have to do forward to meet the challenges we have. Some we know about, some we have yet to discover. So thank you and your department for that.
I'd like to also make a comment on that because Matt and his team have had to change on the dime many different directives and different things that have come either from the state level, Department of Health, and his crew has met the challenge every single time, and it has not been easy. And things have been time sensitive, and they've worked day and night to get the job done. And so again, I want to thank Matt for him and his crew for all the hard work that they have done, that they're doing now, and they will continue to do.
All in favor? Oh, that is carried. Thank you. We now have a presentation for Universal Pre-Kindergarten. The first one is Learn As You Grow, and they may come forward to the presentation kiosk here. Have this.
Yeah, how do you view?
That's okay. No, it's okay. It's like
We.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. Learn As You Grow is pleased to collaborate again with the North Syracuse Central School District as a community-based organization for universal pre-kindergarten. We wanted to take a minute to recap our 2019-2020 UPK school year. However, our main focus tonight will be to explain how we are meeting our goal of creating a safe and healthy environment for the students to learn as they prepare to enter the North Syracuse Central School District kindergarten program in the fall of 2021. Students' progress and data during the 2019-2020 school year was consistent with years past. However, we have not included that data in this presentation. If you are interested in these statistics, please feel free to contact us and we will provide that for you. The 2019-2020 UPK school year kicked off with our annual visits from the North Syracuse and Cicero fire departments. Seeing the students' eyes light up when a real live firefighter is standing in their classroom is priceless. And walk outside to see the fire truck, oh boy. Eye Care of CNY provided the students with their annual vision screenings. The collaboration we have with Eye Care of CNY is a wonderful asset to the students and their families. This year, the South Bay location had 13 students who were recommended for a follow-up appointment, and the Alta Drive location had 11 students who were recommended. Another exceptional collaboration we have is with the Northern Onondaga Public Library, or NOPL, the pop-up library truck. Each student applied for and received their own library card. They were then able to check out books from the pop-up library truck each month. We were very fortunate to have been able to participate in our annual Decorating Cookies with Grandparents, which is an all-time favorite, and our holiday caroling at the Senior Center. UPK students also traveled to the Civic Center to see the ballet Dasher's Magical Gift. March brought some changes for our UPK students in their learning environment. Our March Madness reading program and our pet donation drive for the Humane Society quickly turned virtual. Even with the unexpected changes, we were able to complete both of these activities by providing virtual participation for March. Our universal pre-kindergarten program went to a virtual format. Our plan in providing the UPK students with a virtual education program was to lean on the strong school-to-home relationships we had developed since September. Although the students weren't in the classroom settings, they were provided the opportunity for learning through numerous drive-through events. These drive-throughs allowed the students to interact with the Learn As You Grow UPK teaching team. The students were given materials needed to complete the instructional activities, including items such as crayons, pencils, printed materials if needed. Materials and newsletters were also emailed to families. Through phone calls, emails, and drive-throughs, our spring looked a little bit different, but we were still able to maintain those strong connections with the UPK students. One of our final drive-throughs was our graduation preparation drive-through. Students arrived to gather the materials they needed to participate in our virtual graduation celebration, including a graduation cap, a diploma, and some activities the students completed throughout the year. Each of the UPK classes created a virtual graduation celebration on YouTube so the students and their families could participate. Each graduation celebration ended with the teachers reading off the first names of each graduate so the families could virtually give their UPK student their UPK diploma. The feedback we received from the UPK community was excellent. So in summary of the 2019-2020 school year, we want to let you know that testing was conducted on schedule for fall and winter of 2019, and report cards were distributed in January of 2020. 40 students in our program received one of the following: speech, PT, or OT. 5 students in our program qualified for an itinerant teacher service and other services in the UPK setting. And beginning in March and through the end of the school year, weekly lesson plans, activities, worksheets, and newsletters were emailed, picked up, and mailed to families. And some of the languages in our UPK program that were spoken in homes were Russian, Korean, Nepali, Persian, Arabic, Chinese, Romanian, Macedonian, and Vietnamese.
So I think the focus of our presentation tonight really should focus in on around what UPK will look like this fall and into next spring. And I first just want to mention that I am very proud of the staff, the teaching teams, the management teams, but especially the families and children. During this time, Learn As You Grow has remained open. Since the onset of the pandemic, we have not closed, and it's because of those staff, children, and families that we've been able to do that. During this time, we've developed a few key goals, but the main goal focuses around the health and safety of the children. Each member of the team, including the families and the children, had to buy into that goal for us to be successful, and in doing so, we've remained open. And in order to maintain that goal, we've worked closely with the Department of Health. We've created plans with the Department of Health during this pandemic. They include daily screenings, isolate an outbreak within one of our programs. We've ensured and met the cleaning requirements by the CDC and the Department of Health. We've established policies and procedures to limit the level of exposure by limiting the number of people in our building each day. We've also set up means of communication for families to immediately notify them if there's any changes or updates they may need to know. We've trained our staff on the updated guidelines of hand washing, face masks, and social distancing per the CDC and Department of Health. Just recently, we began to install air purification systems into each one of our classrooms per the Department of Health recommendations. With that said, and with our plan in place, we wanted to provide options for students and their families. One of those options included families that needed extended hours care. We have a lot of families that both parents are now going back to the workplace. They would need care before and after UPK. Learn As You Grow has offered those spots to those families. We've also offered, when the district did go to the hybrid model, we've offered an option for families that mirrors the district's plan. We've been offering an AA, BB hybrid plan at the centers that mirrors the district's. The third option, and what I feel very strongly about and I'm very excited about, is our remote learning plan. We do have students that obviously that are on the hybrid plan that take advantage of the virtual classroom, but those students and those families that make the decision to stay at home and virtually learn only, the classroom that we've set up I'm very proud of. So what does 2020, 2021 look like? Over the past several months, our management team and our teaching teams have created virtual classrooms. These virtual classrooms, along with the curriculum, are emailed out to families weekly. Every week they will get different videos and activities that are pre-recorded that include teacher-led, parent-led, and opportunities for them to learn independently while not being in the classroom. These virtual classrooms will make the students feel like they are actually in the room participating with the teacher and other students. We've included things like hand washing, calendars, weather, circle times, reading aloud, and other activities that would make them feel like they're part of a classroom, even from home. Our videos are interactive and allow students to complete activities at their own pace. Our curriculum materials, along with the videos, will be emailed, and if parents don't have access to email, a computer, or a printer, we will set up opportunities for them to pick up this information or pick up these materials if need be. We've also included a daily snack for the students. We feel that that's very important to meet the needs of the community, that we've included any virtual student that needs materials. We will provide a daily snack for those students as well. This is just one example of, or excuse me, two examples of some materials that the students may be working on at home. The materials that we will be sending home, or the activities that we will be sending home, will all use household items. These are things that we feel very strongly about, that families can be successful because they are accessible to things that they may already have at home. And again, if they need things, we can absolutely provide that for them. As far as in-class learning goes, we will provide the same environment and the same classroom experience that members of the North Syracuse Central School District and the community have come to expect. Our goal is still to develop the whole child while implementing those standards from North Syracuse Central School District, New York State Department of Education, and Learn as You Grow. We also feel very strongly about evaluating and testing the children as they get ready for kindergarten. Some potential testing tools that we would use are the PPVT, DECA, and Fox in the Box. We also are looking at doing this for our distance learning students, again, presenting options as families need them. One of those options would be in-person one-on-one screening with social distancing, video conferencing, or phone interviews with families and caregivers to learn information about the student. The goal of any testing tool or any option that a family chooses would be to evaluate the students using those tools as they prepare to get ready for kindergarten. As we conclude, we want to summarize by saying safety will always remain our top priority. This allows us to remain open and operational during this time. Our goal is to provide a safe learning environment. Learn as You Grow will support the North Syracuse Central School District families and their students, and we will try to meet each individual family's needs. As we've demonstrated in the past, we will continue to prepare students for kindergarten by maintaining those standards, and we look forward to another great school year.
Any questions? I just did have one. Could you just briefly tell me what will I find in this packet of?
So in that packet, just there's some of the activities that we're doing. There's a presentation of the slide, and just some other articles that may be helpful with some of the things that we're doing.
Thank you.
A question too. So with COVID, have you seen?
So as far as enrollment goes for Learn as You Grow, we've been reduced to class sizes. As far as the district program goes, we've also been reduced. We've had a lot of families that have chosen to go virtual as an option, but the majority of our families have chosen the hybrid model to mirror the district.
Capacity to take on more children?
At this time, yes, we have not met our overall numbers. And obviously, the virtual option is always on the table.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next presentation, as soon as Mr. Keegan sanitizes the area, will be from Northminster Presbyterian and their preschool. Just give us a moment here. Okay, thank you. It's yours when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Karen Diamond, and we're delighted to be with you once again. We have had a staff change. Nora DeClos, who's been with us for the last 2 years, has moved back to Nyack, New York for personal family reasons, and so we've scrambled this summer to hire new staff, and I'm happy to introduce you to Sahila Yado, who is one of our co-directors, who comes to a wealth of teaching experience. The other co-director is Julianne Pease, who will be handling the administrative pieces of our work. Philadelphia University and Clark University, and so we are, like Learn As You Grow, we've been spending the summer. We did have summer program for 24 students. That's pilot for us on how we would have to implement safety practices for the fall year, and it proved to be very well. We had no incidences and a very successful program, I'm delighted to say. And so then we've spent the rest of the year preparing. Our classroom size has been reduced because of our having one teacher per 8 students. I'm going to let Sahila tell you a little bit about the program.
Okay. Oh, so this year we have 1 to every 8 students. We are not at full capacity for our UPK students because of the number of staff. So I have talked to Julia, and we have a wait list for UPK because classrooms. Normally we can have 6 classroom, but because of COVID, we are doing we have followed the CDC regulations, everything with COVID. We're having temperature checks upon arrival. They do have to do a health screening upon arrival. Our bussers get it before they Oh yeah, no parents allowed in the building, only staff and our therapists. Have a tracking service that we've been using called Dismissal, which is our new app, so we can see who is in the building at all times, including staff, therapists, just so we can constantly outbreak, so we can. Yes, okay, so last year, again, Nora was our director last year. I was there as a teacher. So our Universal Pre-K program. This is the 10th year serving North Syracuse. Served 34 students and their families. 12% of our UPK students had IEPs and received support at our center. 5% of our students came from an ENL household, languages spoken at home. Day in the UPK classroom. So we followed everything where they had circle time, there was choice, dramatic play, blocks, writing, sensory. There was read alouds. We followed the creative curriculum and teacher selected texts. There we focused on our ELA and math skills, arts and crafts activities, reinforcing skills, themes, teach. Had enrichment at Northminster where we had music and movement class once a week, and we provided exploration in different music sounds and rhythms, instruments, and a variety of songs. Northminster students performed a winter concert in December. Afternoon enrichment provides working families of UPK students. The afternoon enrichment class received opportunities to engage in specialized arts and crafts activities as well as a student. Our winter concert went really well with the students. Had two different events where we had all of our families attend, and it was a really successful event. So the parents absolutely loved coming to that. Assessments. So we assessed our students 3 separate times throughout the year: an initial assessment, mid-year assessment, and at the end of the year of assessment. So the end of the year assessment looked because classes went Zoom either 5 days a week. Most of the classes went 5 days a week, so the kids who evaluated how they would perform on there. This allowed us to collaborate with families, therapists, and more effectively with the students to support. We held parent-teacher conferences in November and sent home report cards in November. So even for students who, for those June report cards, we still did report cards for the students in even though we weren't necessarily in school the end months. We said before we did assessments on them through how they did in those Zoom classrooms, and the teachers touched base with those families even and to see how they were doing, making sure everything was going well with them. Teachers also collected students' work to create a work sampling portfolio, evidence of learning and growth. So here's an example of how we would do different assessments, not necessarily pencil to paper, but giving them hands-on fine motor skills. So creative curriculum from teaching strategies. So this just lists all of our creative curriculum strategies, and the teachers would put their own spin on what it would include with different books that we have in our library, and just being creative curriculum and making it engaging for the children. Program strengths. So we focus on kindergarten preparation, supportive and positive environment, focus on individual competencies, preschool special ed therapists welcomed and accommodated, collaborated with Northminster Presbyterian Church on service learning, projects including reverse advent, support parent communication through monthly newsletters, updates through our child care app, Hi Mama, and involvement through our Parents Association. We also worked a lot with hands-on learning. So here there's an activity where the kids are making, it was Dr. Seuss week, so they were making support services for UPK students. 12% of our UPK students had IEPs, receiving services ranging from services. This past year, we collaborated with Here to Learn to better support our UPK students. Here to Learn provided screenings for our UPK students and our pre-K3 students' future with parental consent for physical therapy, occupational therapy, SEAT services, and speech therapy. We still have a partnership with them for this upcoming year, and absolutely wonderful. Community outreach. In December, we collaborated with Northminster Presbyterian Church to collect canned goods, non-perishable food items, Art Food Pantry, and the Samaritan downtown Syracuse. The students brought in these items daily, filling up decorative boxes outside of their classrooms. The project promoted critical thinking in our students. On the allotted days for bringing in toothpaste and socks, asked, why do I have to bring toothpaste? Doesn't everyone have toothpaste in their house? So it's things that we talk to them about why and things like that. So just to support, not everyone has these things, and why it's important to help others. Our school celebrations, we had the Syracuse City Ballet come in to do an excerpt on Nutcracker, so they were able to do a mini. We had a hibernation day where the kids got to wear their pajamas and we were reading books all day. So they loved that. And we had our Read Across America Literacy Spirit Week, where it went by all different Dr. Seuss themes. So my many Mondays, hats off to Dr. Seuss, Wacky Wednesday, Crazy Fox Days, and Cozy Up with a Good Book. All things that were great for our get into. At the end of the week of March 27th, Northminster was up and running with remote learning. We used Google Classroom and Zoom to facilitate remote learning. Our teachers had weekly circle times and show and tell through Zoom. Our teachers' assistants shared weekly read-alouds and art projects with the students and their families. The students did really well with signing into Zoom and getting a hand. Parents were very positive in this manner for helping us with all of this and really being a positive. It's hard to have a 4-year-old sit in front of a computer, especially when all of this first started happening, but they were really wonderful throughout this whole process. So it was just really great to have everyone on board, and Google Classroom was very easy. That's where we put all of our worksheets for parents out, and if they couldn't print it, they were able to as a PDF, and the students were that way, and we just made it work. We had a wonderful end-of-year celebration where each class was able to come in on one day at different times, and they were able to see their teachers and had goodie bags. It was a huge celebration. All of the kids were able to get out of the car. The teachers had certificates, like graduation certificates saying, I completed pre-K. The teachers had a megaphone. They called their students up and walked across the little stage. They were handed a certificate and a goodie bag. Parents were able to take pictures, and it brought together this huge end-of-the-year celebration with how they started the year and how they ended the year. So it was just a really good way to celebrate a very special year. Program goals for 2020-2021. So we're implementing newly published creative curriculum upcoming year, strong over correlations to the New York standards. Okay. We are taking full advantage of our new childcare app, Brightwheel. With Brightwheel, we're going completely digital. We're not sending out any paper copies of things. So most of our parents, actually all of our families, are on it, where we're sending our newsletters. We're having Picture Day next week, so our Picture Day information all went out on that. All of our communication where we can send links to our PDFs are all in there. All of our incident reports are on there. Everything that they need is accessible on there, where they can easily message to us on there. So it's just a really to contact us and see everything that they need in. We're going to continue our parent association with parent committees for each special event and support parent knowledge with newsletter articles on effective parenting. We're going to do parent association either Zoom or in person level. And that, parenting seminars. So health and safety, I talked about this a little bit in the beginning. So we have the attestation that they all signed already. The daily health screening, the temperature checks where the teachers have to wear, obviously they're all wearing a mask. They have to wear the gloves, the infrared thermometers, and they all have to wear.
Any questions? I just have one quick one, because you were just referenced the Brightwheel app.
Yes.
It says take full advantage of it. That's something that you've had before?
We just switched over to it at the end of April.
You're going, like every communication now, totally paperless?
Yes.
Oh, that'll be interesting. So there are no
It's
more notes in the backpacks to go
No.
home and?
It's
okay.
going very well.
Okay, great. Right, okay. Best of luck. Well, thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you to both of our UPK programs that we have, and all the hard work and changes you put in place to keep the programs open for our parents. I'll realize how important it is in the child's development, getting them ready for kindergarten. So, question on the kids that need like PT and OT. How do you handle that?
So they still are getting that. The therapists come in. They do have to do the daily health screening. As long as they're wearing a mask, they can go into our large muscle room and are aware of it, and parents want them to still get this. And we are operating 5 days a week in person.
Also for your community service projects that both the UPK programs are doing, thank you for including that. We all know how important that is. Youngest learners back to the community.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll pause for a sanitizing break by Mr. Keegan as Mr. Bowles goes up to provide us the update on the school opening.
The top, put the other light switch.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to give you an update on how our opening day went. Before we get started, there are so many people that spent a lot of time trying to get to this point, and I do want to thank the administration, teachers, custodial, food service, teaching assistant, teacher aides, countless hours, and I can say that, and you probably saw Andrew Donovan, where he did a story on us, and the first few days did go well, but they also did have challenges. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. There were things that we still need to improve upon. Some of the things that happen with transportation, key points, our bus routing was closely coordinated with the building administrators to the new hybrid schedule based on the alphabet. Our buses were showing up on time, which was challenging the first few days of school due to the limited number of students who rode the bus. Prior meetings with building principals to evaluate and plan for loading and unloading helped make the arrival and dismissal go smoothly. And transportation assisted in delivering a limited amount of Chromebooks to the homes of students at the junior high, Rocks Middle, and Gillette Middle. For those who did see our originally anticipated, but some of the opportunities, there are many hybrid days of the week changes. So we had either a Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. In order to meet the needs of families, we made adjustments because they had childcare needs. And so we did make switches based on those family requests. We overcame this. We did have some staff members take home resources in order to get some of the changes completed by the first day. If you did see some of our entrances, we did have a high volume of parent drop-off and pickup. And one of the things that we chose to do was to do the temperature checks once the students got to school. So the first 2 days, that slowed things down with the parent drop-off, but each day we assessed and we made some adjustments. And it took a few reminders to achieve compliance with the requirement for the windows and roof hatches to be open, because we are requiring students to wear their mask on the bus. So we want to make sure there's enough air and ventilation going through as they are sitting in the seats with their mask on. So with technology, since COVID-19, we've been working to make improvements to our technology equipment and infrastructure. Chromebooks have been distributed to students starting August 31st. The one thing we did do with K-4, we did not want to have those Chromebooks go home right away until the teachers had some time to really get them acclimated with logging on and some aspects of using the Chromebook. ClassLink was made it easy for staff and students to access resources for a single point of contact. Our instructional technology coaches and TAs have been working to support teachers in both the hybrid and fully remote models. There's also a new filtering system. It blocks certain resources and adjustments have been made. New filtering systems called Lightspeed. And with EdLaw 2D and the volume of traffic that we were going to be having on our technology at this early stage did cause some slowdowns with that. I did want to read, I received an email from a staff member just to make mention that There were things that went well with our opening, but she wanted to highlight how absolutely spectacular our tech people have been. And she knew specifically certain people did an absolutely amazing job, and there are people that are tech coaches were being contacted in the evenings and on the weekends, and they were assisting our staff. But it doesn't mean that there were not issues, and hybrid teachers who are also teaching remote students, there have been some challenges because it's not easy. It says, I assure hear you. It is difficult to converse with students when there are two kids online and they have no sound. So there are some challenges that are there, so I don't want you to think that there are none. Our communication, we've added various elements to the COVID website to ensure students and parents could easily access the following: ClassLink login and user guide, school arrival drop-off, technology support, school nurse contact information, building principal contact information, encouraging families to utilize the technology helpline and website, school messenger, post to social media, and prominently featured the technology website and phone numbers on the district homepage. We've created and distributed a checklist for parents to reference on the first days with hyperlinks to important information. We worked with technology, human resources, payroll, and the business department. Created and distributed several video messages to communicate with families and staff. And that's one of the things that our parents are really liking, that they can access a video message at any time, and they got to see things that we did as far as loading a bus and how students could wear their mask, what will happen when we're doing temperature checks. These things we're finding are very valuable, and the parents really appreciate those items. Health and safety. So there's some things that worked. Several areas are constructed and adapted to meet the needs of isolation rooms for nursing. If you read through the guidance document, we do have to have a separate location if a school nurse feels that there is a student that does have symptoms, and we want to keep them separate until family can come pick them up. Some barriers were provided throughout the district for high traffic area. Unfortunately, materials are hard to get. We've been finding that at times, because we are competing with every other school district around, sometimes there are materials that are hard to get. So for an example, N95 masks, there are different versions of them. There are some that have to be fitted that are specifically designed for school nurses. We did receive a shipment, and it was not up to specs. And so, and this was right before school. So I contacted other superintendents, we contacted other districts, and we did make some attempts, and we were successful, excuse me. And we drove around and picked up exactly what the nurses needed. PPP inventory is adequate to our immediate needs, with additional orders filtering those frequently seeing only partial deliveries due to national demands. Maintenance and transportation staff worked alongside teacher aides, assistants to support cleaning of up to 100 rooms at CNS and the junior high several times throughout the day. Security staff, along with our SROs and Cicero Police, assisted with parent pickup and drop-off. So, new temperature screening kiosks arrived late Thursday and are placed at the district office and across the district. Gloves are still difficult to find, but we're carefully controlling the inventory. We are expecting delivery of additional large tubs of disinfectant wipes before the end of next week to upgrade additional areas with minimal supplies. And recruitment continues to be a challenge, but we're optimistic that proposed changes to our substitute labor rates will help us in this venture. Pass to you.
So health and safety, what worked well is several areas were constructed adapted to meet the needs of isolation rooms. Some barriers were provided throughout the district for high traffic. Oh, I think this is one we've... Touched upon, yep, I think we went backwards. Instruction. So instruction has been one of our largest, our most significant challenges moving forward. Our small hybrid class sizes are an asset in the terms of having smaller classes in person on the Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday, or once a week for the junior high or CNS. Teachers are reporting ease of relationship building, anticipated increased pacing due to reduced number of students in class at that time, which makes our building more manageable in terms of getting students off the bus, into the building, using restrooms, cafeterias. Temperature screenings have gone very, very well. I'll credit Matt Conti and Matt Irwin for making sure we had what we needed in place. Students, buses, and we were all at different schools the first few days of school. Buses came in staggered, released students just a few at a time. There were no backups, bottlenecks coming into the building. That was very important for us to make sure that students could move into the building quickly. So, for example, the junior high, the three on the front steps, you had 3 lines, 3 temp takers moving students through as buses released students. And again, the buses were not full, so that made it even more manageable. We were very excited to see that the positivity in all of our buildings welcoming students back. I think our teachers, our administrators, and I know that the community felt great about sending kids back to school, welcoming kids back after almost a 6-month break. Some interesting ideas for stretch breaks, classroom setup, student engagement. It was great this morning. I saw the PE staff at the junior high having kids outside doing some work with music. So our teachers are getting very creative. How do we make this work? How do we create these mass breaks and times for students to be comfortable throughout the day? Arrival and dismissal, including parent pickup, has been well organized and worked really well over the first few days. We had a few challenges at Gillette Road and Rocks Middle the first day, went back the second day, and things were much more manageable. One of the challenges at Rocks Middle was the Catholic school just next door was also picking up and dropping off at the same time, so we had a backup there. They actually coordinated the schedules, tweaked them a little bit, and things moved much quicker the following day. I went over on Friday myself, and it was very regulated. The flow was good. Parents were working with us, and we were moving kids out pretty quickly. And happy students. When you walk into our classroom, you see eager faces, positive atmosphere. Students are truly happy to return to the structure of school, wearing masks, adjusting to the new normal. And I got to say, from my perspective, it's actually exceeded my expectations to see how quickly our students, our staff move back into a routine, hashed out some new routines and procedures, and move forward with instruction. So it's been very pleasing to see that, and it's really been a community effort. Some things in progress. We have work to do, and again, we're going to continue to work through this with our staff throughout the year. Remote teachers have a mix of students from various buildings and creates challenging schedules. We're looking at, especially K through 4, where we have teachers that are completely remote, to level off classes and to accommodate the need for remote learning. We have some teachers that are working with students from several buildings. We have to coordinate special schedules as well as therapists. So Greg Stone's working through that now. I know we touched base today, and he's making some progress working directly with those teachers to make manageable schedules. Technology requests from our remote teachers, and we're working on finding solutions to best support their instructional environment, whether it be additional cameras should be distributed to all teachers at this point, additional monitors, access, barriers, whatever they need to work through this. We're working with them and engaging them and having those conversations to make sure their classrooms are well equipped to deliver instruction online. Remote instructional schedules, very challenging to connect with parents and find common times for instruction. That, coupled with various schedules of our service providers, make for a challenging classroom schedule. Teachers, staff, and parents are working through this together, and we are encouraging those conversations to take place so our teachers are not feeling overwhelmed. This is brand new for them. For 5 through 12, they're working with students in class half the week, or not even with 2 of 5 days. Younger students require teacher support, concern of inaccurate data. We do use the math inventory and the reading inventory as our screener to see if students need additional support or services as we move through the year in terms of AIS services. And then some of the concerns we are moving forward. So we did ask parents to hold tight until the end of the first trimester to make any moves, whether it be from remote to hybrid or hybrid to remote. We know parents are at capacity, so if we have additional requests for movement, we're going to have to work through that with perhaps staffing changes or additions or shuffling people around. We have a model that works really well, but as we continuously move pieces around, it puts a lot of stress on the staffing we have, the existing staffing, and creates some inequities that we're trying. We may be looking at moving students to different teachers. We want our students with the same teachers throughout the year, but we're going to have to look at those case by case to see what we do to be flexible. What we've learned, we've had some issues emailing select parents in School Tool, learn to adjust emails following the School Tool sync, syncing everything up. And in this environment, those emails are critical to be able to reach out to parents, communicate what's going on in the classroom. Some other updates, though, in terms of preparing our staff for the year, and I think they've been extremely critical moving forward, is our North Syracuse Instructional Operations Committee led by Dave London and Greg Stone, and I believe they have about 30 teachers and teaching aides and assistants involved in some way, created expectations for every grade level for both our hybrid students and our remote students. They started this work in May. They finished it up just before school began. All of our teachers understand what the expectations are to support the learning process in this new environment. There was also a need for additional guidance on teaching remote and hybrid students. That was distributed to all 5 through 12 teachers. There was a lot of questions of, well, how do I schedule this? How do I actually create instruction for the students in front of me, in addition to the students at home, and in addition to the students that will be with me later in the week? So we put together a simple 4-step process, and really what we have to plan for as a district is the understanding and expectation at some point we may be going fully remote. And we have to start with making sure that we're thinking of those remote students who are at home, because we're around 25-30% of our students are remote, and we have to understand they're full-fledged citizens of our learning community. So really what teachers were encouraged was to start with those remote learners and make sure we have instruction for them, and then work with a parallel lesson for the students who are in front of you. And those class sizes are significantly smaller. Let's say they're 10 or 12 students. Those students can work through that as well. So our teachers were provided that guidance, and I think it was well received. Quite a few teachers said, okay, now this makes a little bit more sense how we might schedule this, how we might plan our instruction for the week. And there were a few groups of teachers that said, hey, could you come over and meet with us and help us understand? And I went over there, for example, the junior high school, their science teachers, science aid teachers. They said, can we do some brainstorming with you how this will look? And we spent about an hour with them together, and I think they made some really great gains in understanding of how they might work collaboratively to deliver this instruction throughout the school year. We made available a really wonderful resource called Distance Learning Playbook. It grades K through 12. We made it available to all of our teachers. Over 200 teachers have digital copies they have access to, within the next few days. We're sending out the access codes as we speak. They'll have that as another layer of support and some resources to use as we move forward. Our tech coaches are actively supporting technology integration, elementary, intermediate, and secondary schools. We did purchase Screencastify licenses for all of our buildings, as well as we have Google Meet, Zoom, and Seesaw available to support teachers. And these aren't just the original, trial subscriptions. These are actually there for them throughout the year. So I think that'll help. Those are the four critical items in terms of delivering instruction in this environment. And our tech coaches have been part of that process. They'll continue supporting our teachers as we move forward. Dan did his first Screencastify 2 weeks ago and delivered it to parents. So we're also trying to model what's available for our teachers. Guidance was also provided. A lot of questions about what about privacy online if I'm teaching remotely? What happens if my computer's not working or a student says something that I would have to address. So we did provide additional guidance for our teachers about those kind of Q&A questions, and we provided it in a Q&A form. So teachers have some guidelines and some understanding of, how do I do this? What happens if my connection doesn't work or my computer freezes up? So we gave them some guidance on that. I think that was well received as well. And of course, we have our SEL Central provides resources to both support our teachers and students' social and emotional needs on opening day and the start of the school year. We know that the critical part of the school year is the social and emotional needs and getting people comfortable with doing school again, whether they're at home or in the classroom. We really wanted to start slow in addressing that. So Lisa Goldberg's done a tremendous job both working with staff, putting materials out there, and leading this charge of kind of having this opening to school year.
Okay. With our special education, again, we have been very flexible and having a lot of teamwork with our staff. Our high-need students are able to attend school 5 days a week. For the first time, we had no phone calls with issues regarding special education transportation. Some of the things, what didn't work as well, the new entrant process being complicated by the hybrid learning and remote learning process, and there was some confusion for people about homeschooling versus remote learning. Some things that we can do to fix it, our new entrants are now being placed with more consideration regarding hybrid and remote learning. Greater communication regarding our terminology has been disseminated, and spent some time clarifying with some communication that was conducted from the special education department with a special meeting with our service providers. Some of the data, virtual learners have a custom alert flag attached to them in school tool, so it's easy for the teachers to recognize. The administration and teachers want a custom alert flag created to designate different days for cohorts. For BOCES is currently working on this. Attendance will be taken via ClassLink for virtual learners and those on remote days. New single sign-on using ClassLink system. It is not fully functional, but programs are being added daily. COVID-19 contract tracing program has been created in school tool. This will allow for a quick list of students to include parent contact information if the need arises. We were on a Zoom with Dr. Gupta and Ryan McMahon today, and again, if the communication comes from the health department, they will contact us and they will ask us for information about our class setting and information that they will need for contact tracing. So being able to pull up a schedule, to know where that child was and what classes they were going to, especially at the secondary, is critical. And so this could be at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. It will have to access information online and then provide that to the health department so they can start their process. So in human resources, 33 teachers providing remote elementary instruction had to be created. Develop standardized systems for the intake evaluation and response to COVID leave requests for all employees. We created a framework for district office responses to support staff when answering COVID-related questions. And there were many changes in staff locations due to hybrid and remote models. So there's been a question, and I'll start with Dr. Leahy, and then I'll ask Jason to answer. What happens if there is a student or a staff member that is test positive for COVID-19?
So that's a great question. We met last week. We have a COVID response team that we've already assembled in anticipation of that event. It consists of me, Indiana, Mr. Keegan, Mr. Irwin, Mr. Nephew, works with our elementary buildings. So the first thing is, what we saw in the news today, I don't know, I'm sure some people have seen the story that's been circulated, was we're operating under the assumption that we're going to hear from the Department of Health first. Well, that's one way we may hear. We may hear from a parent who had rapid testing before the Department of Health. We may hear from a physician who may contact us and say, you have a child who's COVID positive. So what we have is a COVID response team with some resources on a shared drive. So the first thing is to contact the Department of Health. That will be the first step. We have that number as well as the sequence of prompts that we have to dial to get to someone. The way that works, though, is you're not going to get a person right away that's going to address the concern. You're going to leave a message with someone. They're going to forward it to somebody who's then going to get back to you. So the most timely element of this is to get to the Department of Health and get that process started. The next part of this would be to contact either me if it's a student. I'll be working with my team, or Jason Neff. I put in his child's name. I can pull that information of every child they're in class with throughout the day, as well as the address, the phone number, the email of the parent. We would then hand that off to the Department of Health to start their contact tracing and making those contacts. And at that same time, Matt Irwin would be working with his custodians, mobilizing them to clean the room or the appropriate rooms or the building if we needed to. And then Matt Conti would also be mobilizing people to clean the bus that child rode in and out home on if that was indeed the case. So a whole bunch of things are going to happen pretty quickly. Excuse me. At that point, Lori has a few emails that will be going out to the affected staff members as well as parents. We do have to maintain confidentiality, so we have to be very careful what we do and don't communicate. But certainly we would want the staff members of that child, if there was a child or a colleague who had contact, to be aware of the situation without over-communicating and breaching confidentiality of a student in a certain building or a part of the district. Those parents would also be contacted. We would be working with the Department of Health, whether they want to be the primary contact or we do, but we want to make sure that whether this is on a Friday night, if it's 10 o'clock tonight, or a Sunday afternoon, or whatever it might be, that we can start this process and make sure we communicate with people immediately before students get on the bus or come to school the next day. And then that's where Lori would do her part, which is distributing these messages to the appropriate parents, if it is us that's going to be communicating, to buildings, to the teachers that are affected, to the administrators that need to be aware, so we can start this. So again, given that we've seen 2 examples today, we're mobilized and we're ready to go, whether it be that we hear from the Department of Health, whether we hear from a parent, or whether we hear from a physician that we have a positive case of an employee or a student.
So Mr. Nephew will let you know what we will be doing if it's a staff member.
Good evening. I'll just give you just a quick breakdown, because I believe that the document that went live today to all staff members, it was a COVID-19 response summary. I believe Connie forwarded that to the entire board so you could see the information that we're sharing with staff. In response to one question that was brought up by the board, if one of our employees tests positive for COVID-19, they do have to go home and quarantine for 14 days, follow all directions from local health authorities, and of course notify me. I'm the sort of the gatekeeper to the government access to the free COVID leave. So my office will provide them, my secretaries are ready to immediately send out the paperwork to request COVID leave under those the FFCRA. And once they turn their paperwork back in, we process that for them. They can return to school when they've met the following conditions. They have to be at least 10 days since they first had symptoms. They have to have at least 3 days since they had a fever without the use of fever-reducing medicine, and it has to be at least 3 days since the individual symptoms improved, including cough and shortness of breath. So once they've completed their quarantine and there's been a subsiding of symptoms, then they can be released by the health department and by their physician to return to work.
I think one of the questions that is often asked, if a student or a staff member in that one class tests positive, what happens? So what you'll know is if you have close contact with a student for more than 10 minutes, so a student tests positive in the class, that class will have to be quarantined and they would have to go remote for that time period. If the teacher was positive, the teacher would also be going remote, and depending on how the teacher felt, if the teacher wanted to continue and teach the kids and do that remote at that time, and she felt willing to do that or able to do that, we would allow that. But if she was unable to do that, we would definitely provide a sub to provide that remote instruction.
So in that scenario you just rattled off, then if they were able to provide remote learning, fine. If not, they could apply for what Jason referenced, the COVID-19 leave, which is a federal program. I'm assuming you said FFCRA.
There are actually a number of overlapping programs that have been ratified both at the state and federal levels. So we've been working with our attorneys to make sure that we're applying all of those appropriately. And in fact, we had got a lot of practice with that because, we had 12-month employees that were running into these issues throughout the summer. So we were able to do a lot of preliminary runs before the bulk of our staff came back for the fall. We're following the same procedures that have been outlined since last March.
This time, are there any questions? And before we have questions, one of the things that we've been repeatedly asked to make sure that we're paying attention to is this is all new for many people. And if we could pause on some of the things that we're expecting people to do in order for them to get to know their kids, know some new procedures, get to work on some SEL with students. We don't want to be a factory. So again, trying to be cognizant of that balance for staff because there's a lot of new things that are being thrown at them very quickly. At that time, do we have any questions?
I had just a few, but I'll defer to anybody first.
Is there a sign-in, like the kids that stay in this classroom and people come into them? Is there a sign in that classroom so you know who's been in that room throughout the whole day?
So you're talking about any other staff member coming into a class?
Like 5th and 6th grade, for example, they stay in that room, and people are different people are coming into that room?
Not that I'm aware of. At the very beginning of the building, as you enter, there's that sign-in sheet, so they know who's coming in. But I think what you're referring to is if someone else besides just the classroom teacher comes into a class. So for K through 6, pretty much there's a schedule that shows if there's the classroom teacher, because the students don't leave the room, special area teacher, so we would know that that teacher or that certain name, it goes there because that's part of the master schedule. So on Tuesday, this person, but I think the other thing that we need to make sure happens is if there are service providers, making sure there are schedules of them and where they're going. And I know within the first week, they're building those schedules. But I think that's a good suggestion that we should probably have a sign-in just to add to making sure we know who has entered or been in that classroom at that time.
The other one, any given day, not on Wednesday, how many students are in the high school?
I was there on day 1, but not on day 2. Because of remote learning, I believe Jamie quoted about 337 on day 1 when I was there that Thursday. I'm not sure about day 2, but I can get all 4 days listed for you.
Any truth to the rumor that some classes have?
I've heard that. I haven't been in the room yet, and that's something, if that's the case, we need to take a strong look at that.
Yeah, well, what can we do with that? Send them remotely or?
Right. That we have to sit down and take a look, because I think you heard or you saw the big push in the latter half of August where more and more people went remote. We were at a time where we were about 1,100, and by the time I presented last time, we were at 2,088. So that was a big shift.
Couple questions. Homeschooling is different. Have you seen an increase in that?
We showed you some data the last time I presented, and it was pretty much equal, at least at that time, so that's 2 weeks ago. But that may continue to increase because as the school year goes on, sometimes that does increase. I would anticipate that homeschooling would increase somewhat, but again, it takes a lot to do homeschooling, especially past 6th grade.
And my next question is about the ventilation requirements. Obviously, we live in upstate New York. How are we going to handle that? We can't have open windows and on the bus and
Well, I'm going to defer. If Mr. Irwin is still back here, I'm going to have him come up because he is the expert.
That's a great question and a fairly complicated one, but I'll try and make it simple for everybody. We've been working with our engineers, and we've been working with Siemens on our building control system. So we have reprogrammed our systems so that we pre-purge the building for about 2 hours before we open with fresh air. We also run ventilation all the time when the buildings are occupied, whether my staff alone is in the building or it's occupied with students. So if you look at the high school, it's 24/7. We run 3 shifts, same with the junior high. The rest of our buildings, pretty much until 10 o'clock at night, there's full ventilation, okay? As winter comes, there has to be some compromise, okay? So right now, we can run fresh air, pump it through our buildings with no repercussions to our budget or any concerns about comfort. We have to maintain 68 degrees in classrooms, so as winter comes, we will have to dial back fresh air slightly in some buildings. Some buildings, we're fortunate enough, we have systems that can maintain a higher level. It's going to be a delicate balance, okay? So as we move forward, I'll be able to evaluate what percentages our dampers are open, to provide more information about how much fresh air we're providing in the spaces, but everyone in upstate New York is going to have that same challenge.
school buses?
School buses, it's going to be the same situation. We can turn fresh air on the heating systems for the buses and bring fresh air in, okay? It's going to be a cooler ride on the school bus. Fortunately, kids wear coats and gloves to school. It's going to be a little chillier. We want to maintain some comfort level, and I'll defer to Matt Conti to make those appropriate choices when the time comes.
Other questions? I had just a couple. I mean, Mr. Bowles, I mean, you summarized it well. I mean, this is new. We're 3 days through the in-person cycles. Tomorrow completes the 4th day. Wednesday completes a full cycle, I'm assuming, of all 5, what it will look like. So obviously there are going to be bumps and maybe huge bumps along the road, and there's high levels of anxiety. I understand all that. I hope there's a lot of patience. I know you've said there will be, and I'm confident there will be, but I'm concerned there are so many things we don't know as we go down the road that we're going to encounter. But I firmly believe that this is what we need to be doing. I really do. Yes, I'm just, you know, there's a lot of noise out there, and I do understand it. I know Dr. Lee referenced the Instructional Operations Committee and the work they did. Is that a committee that's, is it going forward, or will it be revisiting as you go down the road? Because I'm sure there are going to be things we find out aren't working the way they should, or, and it sounds like it's great because it's a group of all stakeholders. I think they need to continue to communicate and have patience with each other.
They'll continue to touch base. In fact, that is an agenda item on district steering that's coming up in 2 days. So we will be talking about that committee and what things they can continue to work on and look at, because we're going to need, you said it, need to be flexible and take a look what works, what's not working, what needs to be tweaked. I think we're going to have to look at everything that we do in that vein as we work through the school year.
Hey, I have so many things spinning through my mind, but thank you for the update. I'm assuming we'll continue as we go forward. Like I said, it's just all this has happened and we've only 3 days in is what amazes me, and we'll see.
And the one thing I do want to say is that Andrew Donovan, when he did do his interview and his visit, did mention that he was impressed with the school that he was visiting, the staff, and the things that they have in place, and the things that he saw of our students at the time. So that's a credit to the district and the people at that building.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we will move along with the business. And we are at the Board of Education Committee reports. If there are any updates, I'll defer to Ms.
I have an update. Our policy committee meeting dates have been communicated to all our committee members. First meeting is Tuesday, September 29th at 5 p.m. We'll continue to Zoom meetings to allow for social distancing. Committee members, this worked well over the last spring, so we're going to continue with that. And we are looking to take on 2 new student reps. Us 2 to graduation.
Crabtree, I know you have the meeting still scheduled for October 28th.
We won't be meeting to October 28th, 5 o'clock, but we will be meeting in person in this room. We'll be able to space ourselves out. Connie and I will be working on the agenda, and we too are looking to get some new students and some new parents.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent comments.
Again, I just want to say that the opening of school, I didn't thank one group, and I did thank the staff and administration and teaching assistants, but the group that I left off, and I wanted to make sure, our students and our parents. They really did a nice job. The students were so respectful on their first day. They were absolutely thrilled to be back, smiling faces, and the parents that helped students get used to doing this and putting their mask on and sitting in their seats and moving throughout the building. So it is truly a team effort for everyone so that we can get back to educating our students.
Thank you. And I just have one comment. I want to thank the board. You responded, most of all of you, I believe, email that I had Mrs. Gibson sent out. I was looking to schedule a retreat, one of the goals. Yeah, just a mini one per our conversation we had with NISBA a few years ago, and we're going to do that on the 16th of November. So there'll be more information. I'm going to sit down with Mr. Maurizio, agenda with Mr. Maurizio and Mr. Bowles, and I will certainly solicit items from all. Again, it's just a mini piece of time, so it would be 4 o'clock on that day, and we'd have a little bit of break, of course, so we could be ready. I thought it was important to attempt to do this. We were talking about it last year, but of course, what happened, happened. But I'd like to try and do little mini ones, so at least we start going. And then down the road, if we feel it's necessary to do something a bit bigger, we can certainly discuss that. What is nice is we have all experienced board members here with our incumbents being reelected, so I think we know each other, but I'd love to just continue the relationship we have, or should continue forward. So thank you for that.
Mr. President, are
Yes.
you looking at doing an assessment? In other words, where we assess ourselves before that time, and if we do, we need a tool to do that?
Well, I was looking at discussing that there, but if you think it's
Okay.
something we should,
I'm just thinking it'd be something, you have something that you will be able to discuss if you have a document.
Okay.
And we look at different areas like relationship with the superintendent, finance, relationship with finances, and I know you're looking at the one tool, and it's very simple to do, it's very easy to do. Michael should be able to put it online, and we should be able to do it.
well, that's a great suggestion. We had that tool, we were ready to go forward, then,
Right.
the world turned upside down, and I will definitely go pull that back up, take a look at that, and we'll talk about, I think you're right, it might be a good idea to have people go through that.
It gives you something really,
Something to focus
a
on.
foundation to discuss.
Okay, thank you. Any other items?
I have some comments.
Sure.
Are you talking about comments now?
Yes, sir.
All right, the first one's a little negative, then it gets better, but I'm concerned, if you look at the State School Board Association each day, which I do, I get it through BOCES and I do get it through here, there are school districts in this state that are in not good shape because of the 20% decrease. Not good at all. And I can tell you that some of the schools in Central New York made a decision on sports, not having them because they can't afford them because of this 20%. Very, very disappointed in our United States Senate, where there was money for school districts in there. Now, it wasn't a lot, but it did not get passed. It was, it was passed 52 to 48, but you need 60 votes. So it looks like there will be no funding for the remainder of 2020, and I don't know how far in 2021. So I just want the board to look at some of those things and start getting some concerns about what 20% can do. The other thing, and I didn't mention it before, but I miss going to see schools, and so I went on Wednesday over to 2 schools. I visited Allen Road and walked through the building and met with teachers and teaching assistants. And I can tell you, yes, they were a little nervous, but they were excited, just like it was a regular school year, excited to see their students, and they were. And then I went over to my old alma mater, KWS Bear Road. I ran into Matt. So I got to kind of walk through and see how, even with construction, how great it's going to be in that building with your K in one part of the building and your first and second in the other. So teachers were really excited. But I went over, then I do walk the track at night, as Matt knows. And I noticed some parents out there on Wednesday night and some kids. And what they did is they decorated the entire sidewalk with chalk, pictures, and I sent some to Dan, welcome back, good luck bus drivers, good luck teachers, go Gators, and I just thought that was wonderful that parents took their time along with some of their sons and daughters to come and decorate the sidewalk. And so I wanted to see how the first day was going to go, so I went over and with my mask and stood there with some teaching assistants. It was just I feel, a well-oiled machine. Betsy was over there as a resource teacher. She was directing traffic. Don knows this can be a little bit whatever on the Allen Road, but they were well organized coming in, and Betsy was there, and Mr. Stone and the principal were taking temperatures, and they signed the kids, and they would go in the one door, and there was somebody from transportation down, that a lovely lady that was helping with the bus drivers and the teaching assistants. The kids were getting their temperature taken. I did not see one child cry. That's the first time, I think, in my education that I did see one little kindergartner. Anyway, they were excited, and they had decorated masks, and they were ready for the day. It brought back good memories for me, and again, it was just one school, but I thought, and then today was the first day from George's grandson over there. It was the first day for the kids at Allen Road again today. And it looked like it was doing really well. And then my last thing I want to talk about, I always talk about the school district because this is a phenomenal school district. I've been involved for 49 years, from 1971 as a teacher, as a substitute, now as a school board member. This is probably one of the greatest school districts. I truly want to tell you that. And we lost somebody. We lost two people. George and I were talking about this the other night. Eloise Kemplin. She was a kindergarten teacher at Reardon. I can see her now. I even think she was there when Betsy Reardon was there. I really think that Betsy Reardon was the principal when she was there. And I was a first-year teacher from this building, and we had a report card committee, and she was on that. And I just admired the way that she cared about students. You know, she was there to revise report cards, but it was going to be because of the students. And she had a great laugh, and just a wonderful kindergarten teacher that we lost. She had a great life, but we lost her. And then Mr. Ferguson, I think, Dan, you showed me pictures of him when he was on the school board digging up when North Syracuse Junior High was being built, and we've lost somebody there. We have a great school district. You know, George, I've known George for about 10 years. He went through the school system. His son and two daughters went through the school system, and now he's got his grandkids going through it. And that's just phenomenal that he believes in the school system. Erin McDonald, she was here tonight. Her father was a phenomenal teacher next door at the junior high, and her mother was a teacher at Gillette, and she went through this program, and now she's back volunteering as a board member. Matt was in my first class, 1971, so you know how old he is now. And we were in this building, and it was an elementary school, and now he's come back to volunteer. So it's just a great school system. We're going to make it through this. The teachers are willing to do things, the teaching assistants, the parents. I've seen nothing but positivity, and so I just wanted to bring that out tonight.
Mr. Crabtree, I want to thank you, but I want to add one more positive thing to that. I've just received a text that one of our teachers, Sarah Bambino, was a finalist for the New York State Teacher of the Year. She didn't make the final, but she was a finalist. And again, that's a credit to North Syracuse because we've had several people become either finalists or actually be Teacher of the Year. So again, it's exactly what you're saying. It's a credit to the district.
Thank you. Okay, if I could get a motion to consider the approval of the minutes, the regular meeting of the board from August 24th, 2020. Motion from Mr. Thorne, second from, excuse me, Ms. Kruger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. With permission, I'd like a motion if we could bundle B, C, and D together. Motion from Mr. Hanlon, B being the classification of the school disabled students from the CSE, the preschool placement, and the placement of students in home instruction. Any discussion? None, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Discussion action item. Item A, recommendation to approve resolution to increase custodial helper substitute rate of pay. Motion from Mr. Harrington, second from Ms. Scanlon. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item B, a motion to place that before us, please. Motion from Mr. Thorne. Scanlon. That's a purchase of the paging system. I don't know if anybody has any questions. That was, we received an email just today. Apparently that died yesterday. So, last Wednesday, I'm sorry. It said Wednesday. Today is what? Today's Monday. And that's, we're going up to the limit of, with this resolution of 20,000 that we're allowed to do without going out to bid. This is an emergency situation. We need the paging system. There are no questions. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Welcome. Motion for item C, surplus of marketable and non-marketable equipment. Motion from Ms. Kruger, second from Mr. Thorne. I believe it's all non-marketable today from what I read. I don't know why I love reading that part, but I always like, look at those items. I'm not sure what they were, some kind of touchpad-y things, but being none, all in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have an acknowledgement of a gift. Okay, if I get a motion, place that before us. Motion from Ms. Scanlon, second from Thorne. That is a gift from Dr. Robert Draker from Summerwood Pediatrics. Gift of $2,500 for a vision screener for North Syracuse Early Education Program, so that is wonderful. Any questions on that? None, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Just an acknowledgement of retirements. We heard Mr. Crabtree talk about the ones I'm sorry, they weren't retirements, but people we lost, but we did have retirements of Rhonda Phillips, which was on the agenda a little bit later, a teaching assistant with 21 years of service, and William Setter, school bus driver with 23 and a half years of service. Acting on those momentarily. The instructional personnel report A, if I could have a motion to place that before us. Motion from Mrs. Kruger, second from Mr. Harrington. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Support staff personnel B, a motion please place that before us. Motion from Mr. Orzio, second from Mrs. Scanlon. Any discussion? None, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And a motion to place administrative personnel report C before us. Thorne, second from Ms. Kruger. Any discussion? And you know, on that personnel report, the two candidates we met seem to be fine candidates. They had great resumes, so I think they'll be a great addition.
Trouble at BOCES, though.
Yeah. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. I'll make a motion to move into executive session. I'll ask for a second. Will be the motions to move in for the purpose of receiving an update on two legal matters relative to potential litigation with no action to follow. If I could get a second, please. Second from Ms. Scanlon. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. A motion, please, for meeting adjournment. Motion from Warren, second from Ms. Kruger. Any discussion on adjournment? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Turn it on.
And there are,
I think there's a lot of information.
there are challenges of not going to.
No, I think so. As I was saying,
No, it's still on.
more patience, you know? Those are just dipped into the water.